Shalom family, this is Yuaka Kia back again with another lesson. So before we jump into today's topic, I just want to start off by giving all glory and praises to the Most High Yahweh and to his son Yahweh Shai. So today I've quite another blockbuster planned for you guys, another deep dive into the scriptures. So the first scriptures I want us to take a look at is Deuteronomy chapter 8, 7 and 9. For Yahweh thy Elohim bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olive and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it. So, and then the next verse, I will make Jerusalem heaps, a den of dragons, and I will make the cities of Judah desolate without an inhabitant. I just wanted to bring out these two verses and put emphasis on them, on what the Most High said that the land of Israel will contain. It will be a vast land that won't lack anything, any scarcity of land, of springs and hills and valleys. And then also the Most High also says that he will make Jerusalem desolate and heaps. So automatically we know that just off of those two scriptures that place where they tell us it's Jerusalem, it can't be that place because it's not in heaps and it's not desolate and it's actually inhabited. So straight off the bat that we know that where they tell us Jerusalem is, it's not the scriptural one. Probably gonna have to make a part 1, 2, 3, 4 of this because this information is too deep, but just also to address where the Euphrates River is. This is a map, the Emmanuel Bowen map of 1742, and it clearly shows the Euphrates River in West Africa. So the reason why that is important for us to locate is because many critics claim that in Genesis chapter 15, when the Most High gave Abraham the land, he said from the river of Egypt to the Euphrates River. But what I believe is that they gave us, or they pointed us to the wrong Euphrates River, or they might have changed the name of the river. Because in Genesis chapter 13 verse 1 it clearly says that Abraham went south of Egypt to the land of Canaan, and south of Egypt is only deeper into Africa. So they are definitely lying and it's not adding up. And this is also just a depiction of a temple or an ancient city in Africa, and they say that it's the largest man-made structure ever found in history. So if the largest man-made structures in history and are found in Africa, there's also another example of Adam's calendar, which is here in Limpopo on Mpumalanga. So if the oldest structures are here, then how can it be that we migrated from the Middle East, but the oldest structures are in Southern Africa and in West Africa? So these things, they don't make sense, man. And these people, they've lied to us about everything. Now for me, this is where it stops becoming a theory and it starts becoming a fact. Because if you just research where, most geologists or researchers, of the ancient scriptures where they locate the Garden of Eden, none of them can give an exact location. But here is a map with an exact location of the Garden of Eden and showing the 4 rivers flowing out of it. And, I think that this is no coincidence because this map is before the period of the Renaissance when the Europeans started taking over the world and started whitewashing history. So this map is from De Verga. It's called the De Verga map, and it's from 1411. It even says here on the end of this map here, it comes with a young description where it describes like all the locations, and why would such a map even exist in the first place? Because on the one hand, you're telling people you can't exactly locate it, but here is a map before the Renaissance period showing an exact location of the Garden of Eden in Southern Africa. And it even says here, It says the Garden of Eden is depicted at the southernmost tip of Africa with a symbol of two concentric rings from which emerge the four rivers mentioned in Genesis. So you can't make this up. Like, why would such a map even exist? Because, they know the truth, This is truly where the Garden of Eden is. And we have been taught everything in reverse. We think that, the Holy Land is in the north, but everything is towards the south. So I'm just going to play like a young clip just of the topography of South Africa, just to give us a little bit more of an understanding of what makes South Africa so unique and so special among all other regions of the world. And what makes it a good candidate for being the Garden of Eden, what sets it apart. And we also know that the Garden of Eden is also close to the true land of Yasharal. So let's get into it.
On the southern tip of the African continent, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean to the west and the Indian Ocean to the east, lies the country of South Africa. So remote, yet so incredibly important to human history. It is thought to be the birthplace of the Homo sapiens, and I believe that we as a species couldn't have picked a more picturesque and fascinating country to start our journey from. In this video, we'll explore what makes the geography of South Africa so unique and diverse, and then dive into its three distinct regions, ranging from the coastal plains over the Great Escarpment to the massive interior plateau. Chapter 1. Diversity of South Africa. One of the best ways to characterize a region's climate is through the use of the Köppen climate classification, which divides the world into regions as a function of their average temperatures, precipitation, and seasonal patterns. In most cases, a single zone covers vast areas and multiple countries before slowly transitioning into the next zone, but not so in South Africa. Due to various influences of oceanic currents and an intense topographical relief, 13 distinct zones can be found across the country, making it one of the most climatically diverse countries in the world. In the west, where the Namib and Kalahari deserts cross over to South Africa, cold and hot arid deserts are spanning over the land, with the coastal areas being a mix of arid and temperate climates. The further east you move, the more intense the precipitation gets, and the desert turns to steppe until a large temperate area covers the country around Johannesburg and Pretoria. Looking over to the coast, the tallest mountain range of South Africa even offers skiing opportunities, before a coastal strip to the far east even turns into a tropical savanna. This climatic diversity, spanning the whole country, together with its climatic isolation, being bound by a thick layer of equatorial and desert climates to the north, also has created a very unique flora and fauna. Looking at the global distribution of plants, the botanist Ronald Good identified 6 distinct natural separations of flowering plants, which he calls floristic kingdoms. These are fast-spanning units overlapping multiple continents and finding the highest common denominator among the global flora. 4 of these, the Holactis, Neotropis, Paleotropis, and Australis, cover nearly the entire planet, but the flora that developed on the southern tip of the African continent was determined to be too distinct to be grouped into any of these kingdoms, making it its own Capensis, or Cape Floral Kingdom. This relatively small area is not just very different from the rest of the world, but also extremely diverse within itself, boasting thousands of different plants, many of which are endemic to South Africa. To put some numbers onto this, it is estimated that the Fynbos, the roughly 200-kilometer wide coastal belt, is home to around 9,000 species of plants, of which around 6,000 can only be found here, which is on par with the Malaysian tropical rainforest or the Amazon. This diversity also constitutes 1/5 of all plant species found across the African continent, and a single mountain, like the Table Mountain outside Cape Town, houses more different plant species than the entirety of the UK. These diverse ecosystems also led to the evolution of an extremely diverse fauna, where South Africa joins the ranks of the 17 so-called megadiverse countries in the world, each of them boasting over 5,000 endemic species. Hundreds of unique mammals, reptiles, amphibian and bird species across its 19 national and transfrontier parks, covering every aspect of the country's topography, are unique to South Africa. Even the waters in front of South Africa's shore boast an enormous biodiversity, bringing us to the first topographical area of the country. Chapter 2. the coastal plains. At the southern tip of the African continent, South Africa is in a very unique situation, being influenced by two oceans and two major currents which couldn't be more different. On the east, the Agulhas current is pushing the warm Indian Ocean waters along the southeastern coast, bringing with it warm and humid air masses, creating an almost tropical environment. This is contrasted by the Benguela current, which rises from the depth of the southern Atlantic Ocean and carries vast amounts of cold and nutrient-rich waters, which fuel phytoplankton growth at South Africa's western shores. This foundation of the food chain creates an incredibly diverse marine ecosystem, with whales, sharks, dolphins, and African penguins feasting on the fish swarms. On land, the southwestern coastal plains are characterized by the Cape Fault Belt, a series of parallel running mountain ranges stretching from the Cedarburg municipality to the city of Quibera, formerly known as Port Elizabeth. The erosion-resistant rock that tops these mountains has created the famous Table Mountain, which overlooks Cape Town. The steep cliffs of Table Mountain, though at a little bit larger scale, continue along the southern African coastline until Mozambique, where the relatively thin coastal plain rises continuously towards the intercontinental shelf. In a geological time frame, southern Africa is exposed to a gradual but continuous tectonic uplift, which has created this smooth but sloped coastline. These ascents have the consequence that nearly all rivers that drain through the South African coastal plains are fast-flowing streams that directly plunge into the ocean. The combination of these two features means that there are virtually no natural harbors along the coastline, and the rivers are not navigable to any economically feasible extent. These rivers all originate on the southern slopes of the mountain range, which follows the interior radius of the coastline, bringing us to Chapter 3, the Great Escarpment. Along the full length of the South African tip, from Angola and Namibia through South Africa and into Mozambique and Zimbabwe, the coastal plains rapidly transition into a steep and rocky escarpment, which draws a line between South Africa's two major topographical features. 500 million years ago, when a shallow sea at Gondwana's southern tip was being filled with sedimentary deposits, the foundation for today's Great Escarpment was built. The breakup of Gondwana, which resulted in the South American, African, and Antarctic continental shelf, included strong volcanic activity, which covered the area with a deep volcanic basalt slab, and continuous uplift in the past 200 million years, has then created this multi-layered topographical escarpment which towers over the Atlantic and Indian Ocean. Rivers and glaciers have done their work on these layers over the past many million years, and the softer sedimentary layers at the bottom are the first ones to carve in when enough stress has been exerted, leading to these iconic cliffs and canyons. The highest region of the Great Escarpment are the Drakensberg Mountains in the southeastern part of the country. The elevated sandstone and volcanic basalt layers reach an elevation of over 3,400 meters or 11,000 feet, resulting in a high alpine climate similar to the Alps in Europe. The high altitude even brings seasonal snowfall, having allowed small ski resorts to operate on the highest peaks of South Africa and Lesotho. Descending from these summits, up to 600-meter deep, almost vertical basaltic buttresses make the Drakensberg Escarpment an incredible nature spectacle to explore. Acknowledged for these qualities, a large area of the Drakensberg Escarpment has been put under protection by UNESCO in the year 2000 through the transnational Molotti-Drakensberg Park. This region has been a home to humanity since the beginning of cultures on the planet, with the Sun People, a term used for the first semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers people of southern Africa, having left their markings and stories in 3,500 cave paintings throughout the mountains. Just behind the towering escarpment, the elevated land opens up to form the Great African Plateau, which curves through the inner continent, bringing us to Chapter 4, the Interior Plateau of South Africa. The whole region behind the Great Escarpment is quite elevated, with minimum elevations barely dipping below 1,000 meters or 3,300 feet. But the unique South African climate once again creates several very distinct subregions that constitute this plateau. From the north to the south, there are the low bush and highveld, which with decreasing elevation and increasing aridity gently transition into the Griqualand west and the Great Karoo. In the very northeast, the subtropical savanna around the Limpopo River is home to the oldest and largest national park in South Africa, the Kruger National Park. Since the year 2000, there have been plans to connect the Kruger National Park with 4 other national parks behind the border with Mozambique and Zimbabwe, to create the third largest national park on Earth, stretching almost 100,000 square kilometers, or 5 times larger than the current Kruger National Park, across the savannah. While many fences around the established parks have been taken down in recent years, allowing the animals to resume their historical migration routes, the agreement hasn't been fully ratified in the constituting nations yet. South of the Lowveld, the elevation of around 500 meters drastically picks up as you move to the Highveld, which lays an average of 1,500 meters above the sea level. In the Highveld, South Africa's densest urban center can be found, with Johannesburg and Pretoria pulling in a combined 16 million people into the Gauteng province. While Johannesburg is by far the largest city, Pretoria is one of the 3 South African capital cities, which split the 3 governmental branches of executive, legislative and judicative between them. From the southern tip of the Highveld, a few hundred meters behind the border with Lesotho, South Africa's longest river arises, which makes its 2,400 kilometer or 1,500 mile long journey through the inner plateau of South Africa. Draining nearly the entirety of the plateau, the Orange River and its tributaries are the main collection of water for South Africa, supporting the vast majority of the country's agriculture in the Highveld. Several dams have been built along its course, creating massive reservoirs, which manage the country's water, which has become more and more sparse as you travel westwards. In the most western part of the interior plateau, called the Karoo, the driest places receive only around 75 millimeters of annual rainfall due to the Cape Fault Mountains creating a rain shield. Nevertheless, there are settlements which thrive on sheep husbandry, which is made possible through abundant groundwater in the region. Throughout modern recorded history, this region has been transformed massively through human impact. The grassland was once the migratory path of uncountable large springbok herds, but the introduction of fast-spread sheep herding has dwindled.
Wow.
It is suspected that it was built by the Namas, led by Oorlam leader Klaas Afrikaner near the end of the 18th century. What you see of the city today, after a challenging hike, is a long wall of stone that forms a rough rectangle. It's a great place for something like this. The Buck River below supplies water, and it's easy to defend, since you can see your enemy coming for miles.
So, allegedly this stone-walled city in the Kalahari was built by this Khoi leader apparently, but who's to say that city didn't exist before and they just returned to an ancient place that they knew that was there before. But anyway, let's continue.
Port St. John's, a rural town in the former Transkei on the coast of the Eastern Cape. This town is rapidly growing as a tourist destination as it is well known for its beautiful landscape and scenery. It is also home to Isinuka, scientifically known as the Sulphur Springs. The term Isinuka means a playful smell because of the odor that comes out of the springs, a place where the visitors are urged to respect the culture of the locals. Isinuka has attracted many from near and far as it is believed to have miraculous healing powers.
Isinuka ngamanzi abonakala enetyiwa apha emlonyeni, kodwa umsebenzi waso mninzi.
Isinuka is situated 10 kilometers from Port St. John's. It is in this area that the water is believed to possess great healing powers. Isinuka is divided into 4 springs: the bath, Vicks, mud, and the drinking water.
Ngokwasela ayalwa nezinto ezisemzimbeni ade akuhambise. Kanti uba wawulimele okanye noba wawurole nemoto kungenjalo okanye wawubethiwe, xa usithatha usidibanise necephe letyiwa upeyite ngaso siye sikukhuphise futhi sikukhuphise nento emnyama njengale peyinti ezazivubeko zokuwa okanye zokubethwa. Yeah.
After sustaining severe third-degree burns, Gwagu lost use of both his hands, but having put his faith in Isinuka, he made a miraculous recovery.
Asisebenzi ngasiphehlele njengoba silapha sisebenza ngesinuka. Uba unengqaka emzimbeni siyayisikhupha le ngqaka kuwe noba sisifumni, kodwa kuya ngento uba usebenzisa kanjani. Usebenza ngale ndlela sizawuthuma yona. Uba ngaba uthi ngexesha ndikhani ukwenza into ethile, vele usuku uyenze kuso, sizawuvele siye kulaa ndawo siyazibonela uba sithini sona. Ubuza ngenhlupheko yakho, sifike silwe nalaa nhlupheko uze ngayo, sibamba into esenhliziyweni kuwe.
Okay, Isinuka ndiqale uza kuso ngo-1985. Ndisiza nomntana wasekhaya owayenengxaki yefele. Ke ngoku ke andafumana bantwana. Ngeza apha 1985 njalo ndamane ndisebenzisa namanzi ayahanjiswa ayaklina. Ndabona ndafumana.
Kusuka abantu bezinye indawo bezohlala apha eSinuka, athi omnye ndandifike ndingenabantwana. Naba abantwana de kubekho amagama abantwana okuthiwa ngoSinuka.
After listening to many beliefs surrounding Isinuka, we decided to visit Professor Dennis Jumbam at the Organic Chemistry and Environmental Science Department of the Walter Sisulu University.
A colleague of mine, Professor Faneran, who is now retired, did some chemical analysis of the water quality at Isinuka. I realized as time went on, there's still a lot of things that still has to be done. And then in 2010, I got some funding from WSU to look more deeply into the chemical, biological aspects of Isinuka. As I said, the chemical analysis of the research. First of all, I had to ask myself as a chemist, when people go there and swim in the muddy water which is there, actually with a muddy, kind of stinky water actually. What is in there really? That is a question I had to ask myself. And then I made a chemical analysis of the water, the mud, that is the clay which they use after taking a bath, they put it on their bodies and so on. And then I was able to find that it contains sulfur, quite a substantial amount of sulfur. And usually the sulfur is very good for the skin, especially when people have rashes and so on.
Omnye uyaphila ngodaka engasiselanga nje. Omnye uyaphila ngokuhlamba engaselanga nje. Omnye uyaphila ngokusela engaqabanga daka nje. Kuya ngento uba ngaphakathi kuwe intoni lifike yathi chi.
Ngabona enza njani? Ngangaboni nyahlo ushebe kamuntu uskapha.
Ujame.
Awuzaboni.
Yabona ke siyafunqa ke kanje. Hloniphe.
Eliposa sini uphathi mo.
Apha kwenziwana.
Uyafunqa la. Phela inhloko lunayi ithuthuka.
Hayi ungafunqa ukhona umsi.
Kanti intoni na?
Hayi kukhona umsi. Kahle mama. Kukhona umsi tata apha. Kukhona umsi ofana ekhasi. Nangu. Emake mama. Kukhona umsapho ofana ekhasi. Ongawufunqa mama. Ubizile. Qala uve. Ungabizeli. Fika wena. Nanko.
Soba nomfazi. Yayika ngomfazi.
Soba nomfazi.
Soba nomfazi kaloku. Yabona kubona ntsiki uzoba nomfazi. Soba nomfazi.
The Isinuka Springs is one of the main tourist attractions in the small town of Port St. John's. The visitors also believe that the water has healing properties. Senior tour guide Jimmy Selani tells us how the spring is beneficial to the tourism department.
What's happening is, as you know, that Port St. John's is a tourism destination. So people, they read about Isinuka from other places and then they come and check for themselves, you see.
This is it. This is Jerusalem, the true location. Namibia. This is Namibia. Namibia, officially the Republic of Namibia, it is a country in Africa, in Southwest Africa. Namibia shares borders with Angola, Botswana, and Zambia. On the western border of Namibia is the Atlantic Ocean. Namibia has gained its independence from South Africa on March 21st, 1990, following the Namibian War of Independence. Its capital and largest city is Windhoek. Namibia is a member state of the United Nations, the Southern African Development Community, the African Union, and the Commonwealth of Nations. Namibia has been inhabited since prehistoric times by the so-called Sand people, the Damara people, the Nama people, and with the Bantu expansion, the Bantu has populated Namibia. The largest of the Bantu group is the Ovambo people. In 1884, the German Empire established rule over Namibia with its German Southwest Africa colony. Namibia has an ancient history. It is in the land of Canaan, the ancient and historical Canaan. Namibia is the land where the children of Israel resided. Within Namibia are the 12 tribes, and within Namibia is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in the Keres region of Namibia. Keres is Kwekwe, and it means quiver tree. This is Jerusalem, the ancient and authentic, historical and scriptural Jerusalem. It is located in Namibia, Southwest Africa. Jerusalem is located below the equator and below the Tropic of Capricorn. There is historical evidence for the true location of Jerusalem. One piece of historical evidence comes from Ptolemy. Ptolemy was an astronomer and a geographer. Ptolemy, he flourished in Egypt. But he was from Greece. He was a black Greek. Ptolemy wrote that around 90 AD, Julius Maternus undertook an expedition in Africa to South Africa. Ptolemy wrote how Maternus went below the equator, and he went below the Tropic of Capricorn, and he came to a land that was called Agisimba. The word Agisimba is Bantu, and it means land of the lion, and this can only refer to the tribe of Judah. Ptolemy wrote this in the early 2nd century AD. The disciples of Yahshua, they all died in the 1st century AD. This is the closeness of Ptolemy's writings, which means the word Agisimba was in use prior to Maternus arriving at Agisimba. Agisimba was in use in the 1st century AD and prior. This is the evidence from Ptolemy's writing. This is just one piece of evidence from Ptolemy of the true location of Jerusalem in Agisimba in the tribe of Judah, below the Tropic of Capricorn. Another piece of evidence from Ptolemy is based on the writings of Marinus of Tyre, where he wrote how between the years 83 AD and 92 AD, the king of Garamantes, this king said the inhabitants of Agisimba were his subjects. Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a hill city located in the hill country of the tribe of Judah. It is situated on 2 mountains. Jerusalem has a rugged and treacherous landscape that protects the access to the city from the east and west. Jerusalem is built, structured, and situated on 2 mountains, set in an east and west position. The western mountain is higher and broader than the eastern mountain. The western mountain, it is bound on the west and the south by the Hinnom Valley. The eastern mountain, which is the narrower and lower mountain, it is bound on the east by the Kidron Valley. The Kidron Valley, it flows in a north and south direction, and it goes all the way to the Dead Sea. Jerusalem has a third valley, which Josephus calls the Valley of the Cheesemongers, and this valley, it runs through the city. Jerusalem is supposed to be empty, desolate, and uninhabited, and this is in accordance to the Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 11 prophecy. The Jerusalem in Namibia, it is as scriptures say that it is. It is desolate and it is uninhabited. This Jerusalem fits Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 11. The cities of Judah are also desolate and uninhabited, and we find this to be true in the location of Namibia. Jerusalem is supposed to be burnt, and this is in accordance to the 70 AD destruction of Jerusalem. And the cities of Judah are supposed to be burnt, and this is also in accordance with the 132 to 136 AD destruction of Judah. Both of these historical events, they fulfill the prophecy found in Jeremiah chapter 9 verse 11. There are 6 Roman roads that run through the area of Jerusalem, and these roads are still visible today. Golgotha is approximately 1.7 miles west of Jerusalem. North of Jerusalem are the Judean hills, and northwest of Jerusalem lies Hebron. Hebron is a hill city. This is the city where Abraham, when he left Egypt, he journeyed south to Mamre. Mamre is a city, a town, a village in Hebron. Hebron is where Jacob and Isaac dwelt, along with the 12 tribes of Israel. They all lived and dwelt in Hebron. Northeast of Jerusalem is Beersheba, a big hill city. Beersheba was heavily populated, and it too is burnt to a crisp. Along with Hebron, Hebron was burnt as well, and both of these cities were burnt during the 132 to 136 AD destruction. Jerusalem is not located in Ethiopia, Abyssinia. It is not located in Lesotho, nor Angola. Jerusalem is not located in Botswana. Jerusalem is not located in the so-called Middle East. And Jerusalem is not located in Lalibela, Ethiopia. There is no Jerusalem, no historical Jerusalem, no biblical Jerusalem located there. There are many elements that must be present At the same time, in order for Jerusalem to be located in any area within Africa and outside of Africa, these elements, they are Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, they must be burnt. There must be a residue of burntness. Jerusalem and the city of Judah, they must be desolate and uninhabited. And this is in accordance to Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 11. No one is supposed to be living there. There must be at least 6 Roman roads around Jerusalem. And one of those roads, it must lead from Jerusalem, from Judah, all the way north to the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire is really the Lydian Empire. But this road, it is still visible to this day. So there must be a Roman road that extends from the Lydian Empire, which is the fictitious Roman Empire. It must extend all the way to Jerusalem. There must be 3 main valleys around Jerusalem. The Kidron Valley must be present. The Hinnom Valley must be present. The Valley of the Cheesemongers must be present. The Gihon Springs must be present. Bethany, it must be present and located near the Mount of Olives. The Dead Sea, which is called Lake Asphaltites, that must be present and at a distance of 10.6 miles southeast of Jerusalem.
This is the book of Jubilees, chapter 8, verse 10. And it came to pass in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee that they divided the earth into 3 parts for Shem and Ham and Japheth, according to the inheritance of each, in the first year, in the first week, when one of us who had been sent was with them. And he called his sons, and they drew nigh to him, and they and their children, and he divided the earth into the lots which his 3 sons were to take in possession, and they reached forth their hands and took the writings out of the bosom of Noah their father, and they came forth on the writing as Shem's lot, the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons for the generations of eternity. From the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water, from the river Tina, and his portion goes towards the west through the midst of this river, and it extends till it reaches the water of the abysses, out of which this river goes forth and pours its water into the sea Me'at, and this river flows into the great sea, and all that is towards the north is Japheth's, and all that is towards the south belongs to Shem, and it extends till it reaches Karasso. This is the bosom of the tongue which looks towards the south. Now isn't this all Karas, isn't this also the mountain range Karas, which is in Namibia, which is towards the south, extending all in a straight line? So we just want to stick this all to scripture, but we don't want to reach it all far out, because at the end of the day, I'm just here to plant seeds, and you should ultimately search and also do your own research, man. I don't want to make any claims and say this is what it is and this is what it's not. You know, we should all study, as it says in Timothy 2, if I'm not mistaken, 1st or 2nd Timothy chapter 2 and 15. Study to show yourself approved, man. So at the end of the day, I'm just here to open your eyes and make you see a different perspective, and, you know, make you to understand that we have been lied to. So ultimately, it's up to you to, you know, study to make sure you are not deceived, and to seek the Most High with all your heart, man. That's why the Most High has, you know, he hid the truth, so, you know, we can search him out, and, you know, he can teach us bit by bit by also keeping us humble and seeking him. So we must also keep in mind there also has been a people that have been portraying themselves as being us. The scriptures also warns us that there will be people calling themselves us, but they won't be us, you know. So we need to be aware of all the deception and I just want you all to bear in mind the information and what is presented, and also what the scripture says, and that the land of the south belongs to Shem. And also the fact that Southern Africa, considering all the mysteries, all the diversity, all the fact that it matches, so much with scripture, all the animals as well that the Israelites encountered, or as well found in Southern Africa. So just bear all of these things in mind, man. So with that, I just want to give all glory and praises to the Most High. Thank you all for tuning in, and shalom to you all.
In times, serpents lurking, watchers watching, Yasharala stay on point. They lurking. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war. We the generation that's gon' get on one accord. Serpents lurking, watchers watching, Yasharala stay on point. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war. We the generation that's gon' get on one accord. Thinking of a master plan, shield of faith, sword of the word, demons don't stand a chance. Word of Jehoshaphat, them dry bones gon' stand again. We study the prophets, we ain't worried.